COVID-19 Radio Town Hall with the Santa Clara County Supervisor Dave Cortese 圣塔克拉拉县空中社区会议。
听众朋友好，欢迎您继续收听希望之声广播电台的节目，我是新田。今天呢是一个特别的节目。Hello everyone, this is Kathy Zhang with the Sound of Hope Radio. You are listening to a special edition of Engage America, which we are holding this radio town hall with Santa Clara County Supervisor Dave Cortese. So this will be majorly an English language town hall, but with a limited translation in Chinese. So welcome again. So this town hall meeting is focused on the COVID-19. So first of all, I would like to introduce Dave Cortese, our county supervisor, and also another guest who is Dr. Jeff Smith, Santa Clara County executive. So yeah, we are also you are listening either on the FM 96.1 or FM 92.9, and also we probably have some audience on my YouTube channel, Engage America. So welcome everybody. So first of all, I would like to introduce the county supervisor, Dave Cortese. So prior joined the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, where he has served for over a decade, with 4 years as board president. Dave Cortese served 8 years on the San Jose City Council, including 2 years as vice mayor, and also as a trustee for the East Side Union High School District for 8 years. Dave's lifelong dedication to his community has translated to a diligent record of public service. As a member and the former chairman of the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, Dave fought to bring federal stimulus funds to the South Bay to rehabilitate our aging roads and ease congestion. As a member of the Valley Transportation Authority, he pushed to ensure that BART will continue its expansion into Santa Clara County and that VTA will have eventually light rail service to East Ridge. They've secured improvements to expressways, Highway 101, Highway 85, and some local interchanges. They've proposed and helped ensure that all county government operations will transition to 100% renewable electric power by 2019, and his office also spearheaded the County Climate Coalition Project to affirm the county's commitment to emission reductions deadlines. Dave serves as Vice Chair of the Children, Seniors, and the Families Committee and makes recommendations on women's policy issues. He is focused on the issues of gender and ethnicity pay equity, wage theft, as well as workplace sexual harassment. And as a school board trustee, Dave led the initiative to build a new high school in Evergreen and architected the school-linked service, which has grown to serve about 200 schools in our county to connect the students and the families to county social services and counselings. So, very brief translation in Chinese. 听众朋友好，那我刚才在介绍的呢，是我们这次空中社区会议的主角啊，就是 Dave Cortese， 我们的县议员，他呢曾经担任过圣荷西的市议员和副市长，也曾经当过学区委员。So next, I would like to introduce another guest, Santa Clara County Chief Executive Officer Dr. Jeff Smith. Dr. Smith has served as a doctor, lawyer, elected official, and an executive manager throughout his esteemed career, receiving his medical doctorate from the University of Southern California School of Medicine. Jeff went on to practice medicine, becoming chief medical officer and a family practice residency director in Contra Costa County Health Services. Jeff earned his Juris Doctor degree from University of California, Berkeley, and is a member of the California State Bar. He has served as a Contra Costa County Board Supervisor and a council member for the city of Martinez. As A county executive for the county of Santa Clara, Jeff is committed to providing quality services to our residents and shaping policies that lead to better governance. So welcome, Dave and Jeff.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you for the introductions. And I will go ahead and make a brief statement and turn it over to Dr. Smith. I do appreciate the fact that he's here. Dr. Smith, like so many of us, has been working around the clock to deal with COVID-19. Santa Clara County, as some of our listeners probably know, Santa Clara County has been leading the Bay Area, but also the state and the nation most of the time over the last few weeks with some of the provisions that we've had to put in place to protect people, including shelter in place, of course. And we just got new orders out this week. In a few minutes, or when we have question and answer, of course, Dr. Smith and I will both attempt to answer those questions, but I think Dr. Smith can explain some of the differences in the new orders now that superseded the shelter-in-place orders of just a few weeks ago. The biggest issue that we want people to remember is that this virus, this coronavirus, is very difficult to detect. It is very contagious. It is more contagious and more difficult to detect than most of the pandemics that we've had in the past. Like some people will remember H1N1 or SARS or some of the other issues that we've dealt with. So it's been extremely challenging, and that's why we've had to respond in such a broad way. You can see what's happening in New York City. I think people are familiar with what happened in Italy and in Asia. And we did have an opportunity here to learn from what's happened, especially abroad, and to try to get in front of this issue, to start putting in place some measures to protect people before things start to get out of hand. We want to protect people from getting the virus, but we also want to make sure that if people are going to get it, that the pace of infection is gradual enough, slow enough, that it doesn't overpower our hospital system. And we now have not only Valley Medical Center as a public hospital, but recently the County Board of Supervisors purchased O'Connor Hospital and St. Louis Hospital. For those listeners that are down in the South County area or Gilroy area, those hospitals, those other two hospitals, were going to be shut down. They were in bankruptcy. They were going to be closed. Thank goodness that we have them now, because that was an additional 450 hospital beds that we were able to keep open and 2 more emergency rooms open. So again, Dr. Smith can speak more to that, but mainly today we want to make sure, with a little bit of confusion out there, a lot of questions that we hear from people. I spend sometimes 10 or 12 hours a day just answering questions for people that I represent. And my district's only 1/5 of the county, but we get questions from all over, and we're all trying to do our best to answer those questions and at the same time keep the county government going. Many people don't know, but the county government has 22,000 employees, and it has an $8 billion budget. And about 40 departments and agencies, not just the hospital. And so Dr. Smith has a big job, the County Board of Supervisors has a big job, the 22,000 employees have a big job, and then all of a sudden, just like all of you, we're dealing with COVID-19 on top of all that, and we find that we have to be a leader locally, statewide, and nationally in terms of how to respond to this pandemic and this disease. It's a disease. So we do look forward to answering questions today. And with that, Kathy, I'll stop and maybe we can turn it over to Dr. Smith to make a few opening remarks.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dave. Just a very, very brief translation. 听众朋友，刚才呢，县议员 Cortese 讲到了，我们现在非常重要的一个任务呢，就是能够防止感染。另外一个呢，就是万一有感染的人群呢，不会把我们的医护系统给瘫痪掉。那么他有一个消息呢，就是除了我们在圣塔克拉县的医院呢，另外2个医院 O'Connor Hospital 和 Louis Hospital 呢，现在呢又提供了450张床位。这2个医院呢，本来是 已经是要破产的。那么另外呢，他说因为他每天都要花10到12个小时回答他选区的居民的问题，所以呢其实今天是一个非常好的机会，能够让大家在我们的空中向他提问。在这个圣塔克拉县有这个40个部门啊，2万的员工和80亿的这个预算。那么接下来呢，我们就请我们的县行政官啊，其实也就是县长 Dr. Jeff Smith. So Jeff, please go ahead.
Well, I'll be very short to begin with, and then we'll be ready for questions. But I just want to make a point that this virus and the disease associated with it is very, very, very unique in our country and particularly in our county. The reason why this is so challenging has to do with the fact that the virus has probably been around in the community for quite some time. Sadly, initially when the world saw this explosion of disease in China, people around the world thought that it was merely a local Chinese problem, and the illness started back in January in China, at least started to be noticed. Quickly we found out that that was not true, that actually the virus had been around for quite some time, but because 80% of the individuals who are infected have really minimal symptoms, it wasn't until a certain critical mass of individuals in China became infected that we started having lots of very serious illnesses which required extreme social distancing in China, which was basically a lockdown. And the only way to really treat the transmission of this disease, to decrease the transmission, is indeed social distancing, which our county was the first to recommend after we saw the virus showing up in this county and saw that there was a lot of transmission that couldn't be accounted for just because of contact with China. And once we moved ahead with the social distancing, the rest of the nation followed fairly well behind. But there is no treatment for the disease, there is no immunization for the disease, so the only thing that we can do to decrease the frequency of illness is to decrease the number of contacts that each individual in the community has with another person, and basically treat everyone as if they're infected, even though we know that that's not true. And the goal of this treatment or social distancing is actually to try to make sure that we spread out the disease so that we don't overwhelm the health system, because if we overwhelm the health system, that means somebody will be left out. There are people working vigorously to try to find specific treatments and immunizations, but we can't wait for that. We have to take action quickly to prevent people in our community from getting ill. So with that, I'll just turn it over to questions, I guess.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Jeff. So very brief translation. 那么Jeff 说呢，这个病毒啊，最危险的地方呢，它是非常独特，非常的有挑战性。因为呢，其实已经在传播一定时间了，我们才注意到，而且呢，80%的人呢，症状是几乎是没有症状啊。所以呢，这个措施呢，就是要待在家里，而圣塔克拉县是第一个宣布这样待在家里的政策。而且呢，到目前为止是没有药物也没有疫苗的，所以唯一的方法就是减少接触啊，就好像要把每个人当成是已经感染的，但当然不是真实的。好，那现在呢，我们就可以接听您的热线电话8882751628。So everyone on the line, now we are open to take your questions. Our hotline is 1-888-275-1628. 1-888-275-1628. So if you could would like to ask questions to either Dave or Jeff, call this line and let us know your name and where you're from.